So, as we've already said, in writing, what a text means depends on many factors, which includes context, who the author is, who they're trying to reach or their audience, and what purpose the author has in mind. So, let's talk about how to apply this critical thinking process when we're looking at readings and trying to interpret them. It's important to remember as we approach reading in this course and responding to these readings that every writer has designs on their readers. Essentially, what this means is they have a set of tools or tactics that are going to help them to get into your head, the reader. You can be more aware of the validity of what a writer is saying to you if you know what these tactics are ahead of time, because then you'll be able to judge for yourself if you think that the writer has a valid argument or whether you buy into what they're saying. Understanding these tactics or these tools will also improve your own writing because you'll be able to then become more powerful and tactful yourself. So the first step in understanding a writer's rhetorical technique or tactic, okay, is to learn the process of critical thinking, which is not so different from interpreting a wave, like we said in the last segment. As part of critical questioning, you should always do the following things. Number one, question your assumptions and your biases. Assumptions are ideas or opinions that we do not question, okay, but that we use to form conclusions about things. Many assumptions we do have a reasonable basis, but they might not hold true in every case, which is why it's important that we learn to question them no matter what. Biases are strongly held beliefs or points of view that can lead us to certain conclusions, but that can lack a rational basis. So if we assume that a rich woman, for example, is arrogant, this reflects a bias about rich people, even though there's no necessary relationship between being rich and being arrogant. Okay? Being a critical thinker really means that you're going to start cultivating self-awareness about your own assumptions and biases, as well as those that others may have. Above all, it means being curious and asking as many questions as you can about what you currently think about, why you think that way, and also what others think. The second thing we need to do when we're applying critical thinking is to consider the context. Like we said before, context is everything. And when you're faced with a complex idea or text, you need to consider who created it, who they were creating it for, and why they were doing that. Every piece of writing has a reason for its creation. It's usually a response to something that's going on socially, historically, etc. You should definitely, therefore, think about these kinds of things too. What's going on right now in the world that would prompt this idea to be shared in the first place? An article about gun violence, for example, and gun control laws would have a very different impact, does have a very different impact being written now at a time when we have a lot of Second Amendment controversy or following a public shooting, for example. The third thing you need to do when you're applying the process of critical thinking or applying critical thinking is consider the main elements of your idea. Okay, so what is the idea that's being presented here? What support is being offered for it? Is the support adequate? Is the evidence legit? And how is this idea being delivered? These are some things that will become very clear to you by the end of the course and will become like old hat. So every time you approach a piece of reading or a text, you will automatically start to think this way, okay? Before you just read on the surface level and take a text for a literal translation of whatever is on the page.